My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make these moments of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. It seems like today's gospel was hard for the Pharisees to understand, and I have to admit, I think it's pretty hard for the 21st century to understand too. I mean, it shouldn't be. It talks of really beautiful things, but we find ourselves in a time so distracted from that beauty that even many of us fail to perceive it. You'll know this gospel passage well, of course. We hear that some Pharisees went to ask Jesus, "Is it against the law for a man to divorce his wife on any pretext whatever?" Fair enough question. Presumably, our Lord must have spoken about this stuff previously, because it seems that the Pharisees knew he had something to say that was different to what Moses said. Now, that was a big thing for the Jews, because for them, nothing was bigger than Moses. So our Lord answers, "Have you not read that the Creator from the beginning made them male and female, and that he said, 'This is why a man must leave father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two become one body. They are no longer two, therefore, but one body. So then, what God has united, man must not divide.'" Jesus then goes on to explain fidelity in marriage further, and even touches on the gift of celibacy as well. Now, let's be honest, there's probably nothing more misunderstood in the 21st century than the Church's teaching about anything related to the 6th and 9th commandments. You can't talk about there being differences between men and women anymore without offending someone, and we've even got to the point that we doubt that being a man or a woman means anything more than the way we feel at any particular point in time. So how on earth does one explain this to the world? Well, Jesus, I can't help but think that it's all a little bit crazy. Exactly what the world needs is to understand the beauty of your creation, men and women, and of marriage. Of course, everyone knows this in themselves. No one, whether Christian or otherwise, gets married expecting it to fail, certainly not hoping that it's going to fail. Part and parcel of people getting married is they want it to last forever. Those things are dreams that are part of humanity. We're hardwired that way. We long for love to last. But what does contemporary culture give us? Rates of divorce that are sky high. People put off getting married because they're scared of commitment and scared of so many other things. People find it hard to see happiness there because everything seems to say that it's in, well, everything opposed to the 6th and 9th commandments. In a sense, people don't know how to have a family anymore, nor how to raise a family. That intrinsic part of humanity seems to have been left behind as a memory of an outdated and obsolete ideal, as if it were the vestiges of a time before we were liberated. But people still want to be happy. I think, Lord, of all the young people I talk to, the ones who struggle with this point, because they feel the whole world telling them, "Embrace the new liberation and you'll be free and happy." And then they hear the Church calling them to remain faithful. And that fidelity which in the end, Lord, is fidelity to you, what seems to them like one ongoing sacrifice, as if living the Church's ideal, which is really your ideal, were a burden that they just have to put up with for being Catholic. I wish, Lord, that I were able to communicate to them how lucky they are, and how much joy they should have on possessing that gift. But we can't communicate it like we'd like to. I mean, we can do our bit, but we can't reach the inside of someone's heart like you can. And, of course, we can only reach so many. And yet there are so many, many more people in this world, Lord, who don't understand this message, and who will be so much happier if they did. So help those souls to see that with you, they have the path to happiness. Not just to eternal happiness, but also to having a happy family and a beautiful life here on earth. You know, I've met quite a few people who have actually come to the faith, or who were brought up nominally Catholic and began to live their faith, in good part because of what the church teaches about marriage and family. Often that's been when there's someone who has a bit of a negative experience, where they were burned as a child of their own family when things didn't quite go according to plan. They see the cost of things not going well, and that makes them even more open to making sure that things go right in their own life. I remember once, many years ago, one guy telling me about his vocation to be a dad, and he had discovered it in exactly that way. He realized, without the slightest animosity to his parents, that, well, they had really struggled in bringing him up, and he felt that deficiency in his life. And so what was his response? On seeing the message of Jesus Christ, he felt such an amazing enthusiasm about being a dad. And the way he talked about it was positively captivating, that you could sense that this guy realized that this is what I want to do. I want to raise my children. I want to create in them all that gift of paternity, which, as he perhaps might have said, I never experienced myself. He was feeling so committed to that gift that God had given him. He had a real calling. God had most definitely called him to marriage and parenthood. And with all that enthusiasm for life, and for all the good that his life could do, you could see that that guy had an awesome way to enter into his marriage. As, in fact, he did. He got married quite a few years ago and now has several children, and they are a really fantastic family. Now that's real liberation, real freedom, and perhaps more than anything else, real joy. And that's what one gets when we understand Jesus' teaching about marriage and family. True freedom and true joy. So, Lord, I come back to the same question in a sense. How do we help people to see this? I mean, let's just be completely honest about it. There's a certain attraction to the idea of abandoning the 6th and 9th commandments. If we're completely sincere and blunt, it looks like it could be a lot of fun. But then the message that you give is so good, even though it goes so counterculture. What can I ask you, Lord, except to help souls to think beyond the gratification of the now that so many try to sell them as a means to ongoing satisfaction, which, of course, is basically a contradiction in terms, and instead to dedicate themselves to building a beautiful future. So many people in this world long and struggle for the gift of a true understanding of marriage. So many people don't have the gift of Jesus Christ, that clarity of his teaching. And us, disciples of Christ, we have it as a gift. It's a great gift, and it should be treasured as the gift that it is. Certainly not seen as an obligation, not seen as a kind of requirement that you just have to put up with for being Catholic. No, it's true freedom and true joy. In fact, I'm convinced that it's one of the best things for the new evangelization, to help people discover the path to the fulfillment of the inner longings of their hearts. That's something that so much of their culture denies them. But, of course, if we want to communicate that to people, we have to discover it and discover it deeply ourselves. To know how truly good and beautiful it is, to really understand it and therefore experience it in our own lives. And then, of course, it's easy for us to wear it as a badge of honor, rather than seeing it as some kind of obligation. We are truly the luckiest people on earth, and yet so many times we don't realize how lucky we are. Jesus, I can't help but ask you, with a longing plea, help us to understand how lucky we are that you call us to be counterculture, and especially counterculture in this point, where we know that we can find true, ongoing happiness in our lives and can bring that happiness to others as well. Our Mother Mary, help us to see the joy that we have in knowing the way that God himself envisages marriage and family to be. Help us to discover that treasure, to hold on to it, and to proclaim it, so that we can help others to have that joy in their lives too. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your assistance in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.